this big crack right here, we got to deal with that. We can't leave that branch. Welcome back, you guys, to another peach pruning video, and probably going to do some more fertilizing and thinning videos coming up. In our last video, we talked about why to prune and all the damages that happened to this 13-year-old tree behind me. But today we're going to prune that 13-year-old tree, and we're going to show you how to save something that has all sorts of damages like that. Hopefully out of this video, you will learn how to prune a big adult tree, and additionally, you will learn how to correct a tree that's been neglected and has damage to it. And before we start today, we'll just show you some of the tools we're going to use to do this project. And the first one is our handy dandy WD-40 can, and that's just to keep the joints on our tools nice and loose so they don't get too stiff after a lot of use and wear our hand out. We like to keep it so our hand doesn't get worn out. And additionally, there's a little file here just to keep a razor edge on our blades there for easy cutting. And we have a little crescent wrench here just to adjust the nut in case it comes loose in eventually or something like that. It doesn't happen very often, but there it is. And then over here, we're working on a big old tree today, 13-year-old tree. So we have our hand saw, and we also have our power saw for cutting some big limbs, which we're going to be cutting some big ones today. We are missing the green dumpster today. We're not going to be using that. We're just going to pile the massive amount of branches off this big tree right here. Some people, we used to burn them back in the day. We bring them to the green dump now. Some people have a mulch chopper. They'll chop them up for mulch. Anyway, so whatever is decided to do, we'll have the branches here. Now, the first thing we want to do on this tree is identify where some of the damage has occurred and some of the bigger limbs that we're going to be maybe having to get rid of. And the reason we do that first, decide on our new structure of the tree. We're going to have to do some pretty structural decisions, big decisions here, but we're going to do those big decisions first if we can. And maybe there's some that we can't quite decide on until a little later, but maybe we'll do some of the big ones first. We don't want to waste our time out here pruning fine-tuning all the smaller growth when the reality is that this big crack right here, we got to deal with that. We can't leave that branch. This branch is going to have to come off in some form or another. We're going to try to keep this tree, right? So this branch right here is something I think I want to work with, this new growth that came out around this position. So let's start by chopping this branch in. I'm going to chop it right here. Okay, that's the first half of it. Now I left about 2 inches there so that we're not too close to this new growth, because I don't want to cut its veins and stuff too close to it. I want it to try to do some healing, but I want it just a little bit out here so that it can heal out here, and hopefully this thing can stay alive and healthy. Now I know that it's cracked underneath right here, but if we cut this strategically right here, cut this little hangnail off right here, well, it's kind of a big hangnail, but we'll cut that off, then maybe it can also wrap around eventually and heal underneath. So that is our hope. And again, we're trying to recover this tree, so hopefully we can. And I have to say, next year we're probably going to have to do a follow-up on this tree to see if we were successful. All right, here's a big branch. We'll clean those cuts up just a little bit and try to make it nice and clean so that the tree can heal the best it can. And we're going to try for that. I know it's split a little bit back into there, but we're hoping it can heal that up and build it up a little bit. All right, so now, and the good news about this is that it's not too far out here. It's got good strength here on this main limb. So now we have this piece right here sticking up, and we want to keep some pieces on it. I think we want the branch to start bending out this way, and it kind of got forced back this way. You can see how it bent itself because we had this big branch kind of overpowering it for shade. So this kind of started trying to make its way to the middle of the tree, but we don't want it to go that way. So we'll do our best to not leave it too long. There's some little dead ones there we'll cut off. So I see some new growth buds right here. and some right there. So I think I'm going to cut it at about right here, about an inch and a half above the growth bud. And there we go, we got it. For some production on this branch, I'm going to cut this one at 12 inches. This one that's hanging down, I'm going to cut it right there at about 16 inches. And there's another one on this side, I'm going to cut about 12 inches. And that just gives some leaf ability for this branch right here. And hopefully some stuff starts coming out this way too. Well, here we are on this big scaffolding coming out this way. And we just worked on this one, and we got to work on this one. We got two others up here. Now this one has a big crack in it, so it's probably got to go, you guys. But also, and look, here's another crack further down. The weight was just unbearable for that tree. Just huge amounts of weight. And I don't think that this branch was ever meant, when we pruned it, was ever meant to be this low. But again, with that weight, not only does it crack it, but it's kind of like your muscles where they can move a little bit, and in time they stretch out. And so with all that weight there, this thing's almost touching the ground now. So for those two reasons, because it's cracked and because it's almost touching the ground, we're going to cut that off right there. And we'll try to make a nice clean cut with the hand saw. Okay, and you see that branch has a lot of weight on it, so it wanted to twist off there because it's got my saw wedged in there. So now we're coming up this way, and we're kind of headed up to this one right here. You could say, well, gee, maybe I'll cut this off right here and keep some of these lower ones. You could try to do that. You could even cut it here. It's too bad that this one cracked. That would have been a good one to keep, but it's not there. It's cracked. So, and this one you could work with. Right now, a crook right here is like 7 feet. So we're gonna need to start getting a ladder if we're gonna keep anything too much higher than that. I mean, to a certain degree, you can grab it and bend it down and work on it. And again, maybe at your house, that's something you're willing to do, is just pull out your step ladder and work with that. But me being at the farm, we don't have time to pull out special tools for special treatment for one tree. We've got to have them all so they're uniform, so we can just go through the whole line. Otherwise, we won't get to them all. So it's a time thing. I think I'm going to try to work with this lower one right here, and I'm going to try to work with this one right here. And I would even maybe try to work with this one right back here to keep. But we also have this one that's almost in the same positioning. So we could think about that. But anyway, we'll get rid of that first. And we can cut it again if we don't like how that worked out. So let's go ahead and cut that. So now that we've cut that big thing off there, we can now kind of fine tune all the branches in here. And we also kept this scaffolding coming off this way, which isn't a bad one. I think we'll fine tune that one too. It has room to have a nice production in here. You see right in here how it's kind of crowded. There's 3 of them all close together. So let's see if we can make some decisions in there. Let's take this off first, like a multiple choice question. We know we didn't want that thing. And we probably don't want too much of this thing going up in here. We can keep a piece of it if we would like for a peach production. See this little horn pointing upward here off this branch? Let's keep that one. And we'll chop away that stuff for now. So there we have some nice production. Let's take the one out in the middle between this one and that one and see if this thing starts shaping up into a good looking situation. We don't need that, and we don't need one hanging straight down. And we have kind of these horns up here again, so we can choose which one to keep. I think I'll cut that one out and keep this one and head it off at about 16 inches there. And we'll head this one off too. And maybe we'll keep that one and head it off. Chop out the little guy, get rid of that extra one. Now there's one off the back. We can keep it for peach, or we can get rid of it too for structural, but I think, you know what, this tree's 13 years old. I don't want it to get too much bigger. I would rather just try to maintain the general area here and keep those for peach, and as it sends out new ones, we'll keep working that. Okay, so now we have one over here that's kind of hanging down. It's too bad. You see, one of our employees that we train, and I guess we're not doing a good enough job training people, but this branch that was coming up above would have been the one to keep, but they cut that one and left the one that went down low. So we can decide now. We can try to let this one produce something for us and do that. So if we were to do that, we would cut it right here so that it doesn't stretch out too far. We don't want too much weight on it. And we would just leave this one here and maybe trim that one up a little bit and leave those two there. So you could leave those there for peach. Okay, let's go up here. This one split off real bad. So you know what? It's got a bud here though, and a bud there. I think I'm gonna trim it right there and let it have a chance to see if it'll grow a few of these buds coming out this way into the future. Because we're, unfortunately, because of the damage on the tree, we're kind of missing everything out this way. But we can get the new stuff working out that direction. So right here, we'll trim that off and head that, and trim that, and we'll head that, and we'll keep that one and the one off the back. Now, this one might be shaded because some of these others are actually kind of over it. So we'll cut that one off. There you go. Kind of got that area done. Let's try to work on this one coming over here. So I think we'll head that one off at about 18 inches, that big one. And this one coming over the top is kind of funny. I almost wish we had another one like that, kind of shooting out the side here, but we don't. We have to work with what we got. But we do kind of have one like that over here. It's getting a little bit close over here, but as you can see on this trunk, we're kind of missing some stuff over here, and that's why we're getting the sunburn so bad, is we kind of didn't have good coverage. So I think I will keep this one and cut that at 16 inches. And I'm going to cut this one out of the middle on this right here. That's a stubborn one, ain't it? Okay, and let's trim that one off. Well, I wouldn't normally trim that one off, would I? But oh yeah, I got one here. So it's hard to see your angles sometimes. We got one coming out over here, so I'll trim that one off, 16 inches. Let's get rid of that one. We'll recut that right there. Okay, trim some of these off the bottom real quick. Trim these, and that one off the top. We don't need that. And I think we will attempt to keep some of this here. Maybe right there. There you go. Head that off right there. And so there's some that we've kept. We got one left right here to work on for this scaffolding, and this one kind of grew up into there and wrapped around it. So we can get rid of this. We probably should. That one's going away. And then we got this other one that kind of grew funny that way. So I'm going to head that one off at about 16 inches right there. I'm going to cut the one below it. And I'm going to cut the one above it and cut that one and head that one off. I want this one to send out its new growth and kind of build some branches and a bowl up in there in the future. So this branch was one of the worst. It had a lot of areas that were cracked off on main scaffold limbs. But as you can see now, we have these different production areas on here all over the place. And so we've really scaled the tree back a little bit, and we're going to allow it to focus on its new fruit and its new growth. Not too much here, so that it can work with the different areas at leisure this year, instead of having to force 10,000 peaches off the tree. So I think this tree is going to be very happy with what we did. We're going to come out to this one, and we're going to follow it up. And we got some branches here that are stubbed off and kind of a dead one here. But we got this wonderful new growth up here that's trying to do something good for the tree. So let's simplify the situation down here a little bit so it can heal. Let's just get rid of these little stump things. And this one too. So you see here, we got this new big branch trying to grow here, and I could have cut in here and taken out this too, and I could have cut right next to that branch, but I think it would have damaged the veins and the different things that are hooking this all together and the plumbing of the tree. So I kind of came out here about 1.5 inches away and cut that stump off, and same with that, so that this one hopefully doesn't get bothered too much, because I don't want to bother that new one. Okay, so now we're coming up this branch right here, and we got some big decisions to make again. Now remember, we don't want to get so high up in here, but remember, that's another decision. If you are willing to go a little bit higher, you're in your yard and you go, well, I want to get things just a little bit higher so I can mow under them and do my flowers or whatever, and you're okay pulling out a ladder, that's okay. Lots of people love to get on an orchard ladder, but for us at the farm, we want to keep everything generally within reach. Maybe we can even pull the branch down a little bit to grab a few of the high ones. So that's kind of what we're looking for. So because of that, I think I want to keep this one and maybe this one coming off the back, and they will create a new situation up in there for me. So maybe I'll take it out right here like that. Now that we kind of decided the height up in here, we're just going to come up with all these branches and decide, we'll fine tune it and decide which ones we're keeping. So we want to keep some for peach production and for some leaf in this area to help shade our scaffolds in there. So we'll trim this one about 16 inches, and we could even keep this one too right beside it if we wanted to, or we can just keep one. You know, for production on a farm, maybe we would keep two. Cut that out of there, and you could keep those two right there. And then if you decide you want to keep this one, then you could do that, at least for 1 year. And maybe we'll just cut some of these little ones out of here. Or you could cut this one out and keep that one. So you have different decisions you can select and make. But I don't know yet. Let me just go up this branch, and then I can decide kind of which ones I'll keep on that other branch. I know I want to head this one off. And I know I want to keep that one and head that one off there. I think I want to cut out that one that's coming off the side of it. Okay, and then let's come up this branch. I think we'll keep this one out here. And I think we'll keep one coming out this way. And let's see what else we can do. I could keep a few more of them for some production. Maybe we'll chop it right there. Take this one off the belly. And take that one off the belly of the branch. And we can just head that one, chop that one out. And we have quite a few left up in here. We don't need them all. Maybe we'll take that one out and just thin it out a little bit. Again, part of the pruning that people kind of miss the concept on is it is structural, but there's also a thinning process we're doing too to actually help with the weight bearing, which we talked about in our last video. So we are thinning the tree 2 times over. The first time we're thinning it with wood. The second time we're actually thinning the actual peaches. So that one looks pretty good. I think we'll take that one, and we could maybe leave one of those. I think I'll take that one off and that one. Okay, now let's go up this other side right here. We got this one to do. So we left that one on the back there for some production. I think we'll take that little one that we saw before off. And this one is too close in here, so we'll take it out. And we got one hanging off there. And remember, we're trying to think of the angle of the sun, how it hits things. We're trying to bowl things to that so that the sun can kind of evenly hit different things and have a chance to hit them instead of shading them in. So now we haven't done the top of this one, but I think we're going to cut it right here and take the tall part out of that. And then we're going to pull that one down just a bit, and I'm going to cut it right there and head those off and leave that one. It's getting a little bit high, but I think we can deal with it. We'll head that one off. And how about we head that one off? And the one in the belly goes away. And let's take this one out. This one's dead. Do you see this one up in here? That always makes it an easy choice when they're dead. And then we'll keep this guy for a little bit of production. Boy, they're gonna hate me on these high ones when they have to come thin them. They gotta reach up there 7, 8 feet tall. So that's something to think about is, geez, I gotta come back and do it again. Which ones do I feel like reaching for and which ones do I not? And of course the tree is gonna help you decide some of those things too. It's gonna decide where it wants to spend some time and energy. And there we go, we kept some of those. So that completes that scaffolding. Okay, so now with this one done and this one done, we're gonna move to this branch right here. Now this branch right here has a new growth coming out below it. The trees are interesting, you know, they're quite alive and they know what's going on with themselves. So the reason maybe it decided it needs some growth there is because it feels like it needs to get a new branch up in that direction. And maybe it has something to do with this one right here that got sunburned real bad and cracked off up there and cracked bad. Maybe it has something to do with this one out here. Let's go up and look at this one right here and see what's worth saving on that one. And before I work on that branch, there's a branch on the neighboring tree who is been cracked right here, and he's covering up this branch. So let's get rid of him first. Right here real quick. I came in there with the saw a little bit too aggressive and I chewed up the branch on there. So try not to do that. I made a mistake there, but try not to hurt the tree extra than you need to. So let's follow this branch up. Now, there's not much coming out this way on this branch. It's quite clear. And this branch is coming out quite a ways. And it's coming out way over here. And so you can see this branch out here is really starting to hang low. And so you can just imagine when I weigh about 250 pounds, but when 200 pounds of fruit gets on here, like me, and I lean on it, this thing's going to be touching the ground. So I think we're way too far out here now. We need to bring it back close to the tree. And we don't have much to work with, but we do have this guy right here. So this is the one I think we're going to try to work with. Now I know it's kind of bending back the other way, but if we keep it in time, some of these ones might build up into these areas and create some good structure up in here for us that's a little bit closer to the center of gravity on the tree. So let's cut this one off right now. And we'll go down about an inch away from the junction there. Okay, now that one, we've made our big decision. Now we're ready to fine tune this branch. So first of all, we have a few that have died down here. You can see them hanging down low. But I think I'm gonna come up here first to the front, and I'm gonna cut the one out of the middle, and I'm gonna leave these two horns here, and I'm gonna head them off like so. And I'm gonna give a little spacing till I get to this one, head that one off and keep it, and cut that one out. So we always want to be thinking about spacing and giving things room to do something. You can see this one is coming from underneath, but that's not most important. Perhaps most important on this one is that it's growing, it's angling back up like a horn. I'm gonna keep that one because it's going the right direction. It's got the right idea. So we got one here. I'm gonna cut right here and head that one off so that something's going out that direction. I'm gonna cut this one off right here and this one off on the belly and that one off. Okay, so now we kept that one. We have this one in between, but now we have a good space in between this one and this one and this one, about a foot on each. So now we'll just head that one off, and let's see, this one, I'm gonna take that one off, and that branch is complete. Okay, now with this one complete, we're going to think about this new shoot down here and what it's trying to do, and we're going to look at this back scaffolding here. So this back scaffolding has 3 main points going on. It's got this other tree growing into it, shading it. It has this one that cracked off, and it has one back here that is salvageable, but it's kind of growing up high over there, so we'll see what we can use on that. And then we also have this thing kind of growing up here. So it's almost like a puzzle. What are we keeping? What are we getting rid of? What is the tree telling us? What's going on? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is come back over here with this and say, hey, you're getting into this guy's airspace a little bit too much. So I'm going to trim you back right here. Right there. So now that that's dealt with, let's deal with an easy choice. We know that this one cracked right off, so we probably could cut that right off if we wanted, because that's an easy decision. So now on this one, we still have the two to think about. We have the new growth and we have this old growth on this scaffold. I kind of have this old irrigation ditch in the way here. Makes it a little bit tricky to work on this. It's getting quite high and it's getting hard to reach. There's a few things we could do. We could certainly keep this. I think we will too. I think we'll work with this and we'll try to maybe come down a little bit on it. Like for example, you see these two horns right here, and you see how those are shooting up another 3-4 feet in here. I'm just going to cut it right there. And now all of a sudden, the tree is within range to thin it and pick the peaches. Okay, another easy one to look at is this weird one in the middle. And remember, we have different people pruning these trees and different people making different decisions. And that's okay, maybe they thought that was good. And I cut this one out of the middle, and I also noticed that this one split right off. The whole thing just split right down the middle like a banana peel. So I'm gonna cut that one off too. So I'll cut those both off right now. And we'll see if we'll make our job just a little bit simpler. Let's just fine tune a few of these that we kept. And we'll come up here and trim that one. Maybe right there. Head that off and get rid of a few of those little things. And then come over here. Well, that sun's bright today. Spring must have sprung. And trim out a few of those and give a little bit of spacing to everything. And we already have those two horns, so we don't need all that, but we'll keep that one there. And we'll trim that one out right there. Okay. So that kind of got that part. So we've kind of gone up here and here. So we're coming back down now. We're going to go out a different direction. So let's take a look at this one and see if there's anything there we want to keep. We could keep that. And we could keep potentially that one too. But we don't have to keep it at all. We don't want it, but we do want to keep something. We're not keeping this one because it's dead. You can see how it's all dried up. There's no life to it. Well, that makes that an easy choice, don't it? So we got that one, and here's one coming out nice that way. And I kind of like that, so I'm going to chop it right there. So we got two nice production limbs right there. So we kind of got this one done and this. Now we're going to come up over here. And part of the issue is that this thing is coming out a long ways over here and getting really high. But I think we'll do our best with it. I'm going to cut out the center of that. It's too crowded in there. And I'm going to cut that one off that snapped from last year. And get that one too and trim that. That one's going downward. This one's, oh, maybe I don't want these to get too long out here. So let's cut it right there. It'll be fine. And maybe right there we'll keep. Cut all these little dead ones off. And that one underneath we'll take. Okay, let's go here and take a look at what we got. I think we'll trim it right there. Maybe even right there, actually. I'll trim it right there instead. And see, you can decide. You can change your mind if you want. You can trim somewhere else. Or don't want to change your mind too much, or you might not have any tree left. Okay, and we'll just head that one off, and that one, head that one off. Okay, so we kind of got this one now developed there. And we got one here down lower. So we'll see what is keepable on that. And we'll keep some of that. And, you know, as a rule, I try to at least make sure something like that has about 2 branches, if it's possible. Just to, you know, even this branch, I might try to keep something on that if I could, but is dead. So that's going to go away. Now that we've kind of dealt with the remaining part of the scaffolding, we kept going this way. We're going to come back down here and decide what to do with this new growth. Now, this is not the most ideal positioning because as this grows here, it's going to be really crowding with this other one. It's going to cause some trouble, perhaps. We probably don't need growth going out this way, so probably if we kept anything, it might be this. So let's just cut this off real quick. And sometimes it's okay. Why don't we keep some of this and let's see what the tree gives us next year. Let's see what happens and give it a chance to see what it can do. Easy enough. All these ones down low, we're going to get rid of all the ones that are down low. We don't need the peaches touching the ground. It just makes them rot anyway. Okay. And then we got one right in there. It's going to be hard to cut like that, but I'll get it. There it is. Okay, so we got some of those that are down low cut. Now let's decide, now that we're getting up a little higher, what we're going to keep. Now, this branch is kind of headed this direction of this one that cracked off that we lost. And it's kind of going to fill up this empty sky right here. So that's kind of the goal for it. So anything coming to the center of the tree on this one, we're going to get out of here for now. And maybe we'll keep some of this for peach production. Let's start up here at the top and decide what it is we're keeping. This one's coming out that way. I think we're going to lose this right here, and we're going to chop that one and head that one. And let's just chop that little one. A little bit of spacing there, a little bit of spacing there, and a little spacing there. And you know what? That one might end up doing something for us. Let's look at that. Anyway, let's get this one. And we could even keep this one for some peach production if we wanted. You see, then those are kind of the choices you have to make. Long-term structural decisions and short-term production decisions. If you got a lot of friends you want to make peach pie for, maybe you want a lot, I don't know. Or maybe you just want a handful that you can eat in the summertime. All right, I think I'm going to chop that last one off. And I'm going to leave this one out here this year. I just want to see what it does and see if it does something positive for growth, balling out into that empty spot a little bit. Okay, and that one's done. That leaves the last one here for us. And one of the things I want you to notice about this one is that it has a crack going down it. It took some damage too. I know you can't see the crack quite as good on that one, but it's there. And also, part of the reason it cracked is because it's coming out here like 10 or 12 feet. It's filling in this area, this next tree. It came out here way too far. We let it come out too far. It had way too much pressure on it. So we're going to make a decision. Now the tree seems to know that it had some trauma and some stress happen to this big scaffolding, because this last year it shifted a lot of energy into this new growth right here. So I agree with the tree. I think he needs a new branch out here. And this big branch, big decision, this big branch that we grew for 10 years is going to come off. Now it's kind of heavy, so I think I'm going to take it off in pieces so that it doesn't just crack the whole thing off right there. We'll just take off a chunk at a time. You know, this saw is really handy for pruning, because like with a chainsaw, even though a chainsaw might be a little bit quicker, it's hard to start those little gas things because you usually only need the saw intermittently for just a second. And these battery powered ones are nice because you can use it for just a second and then you're done with it. Now we're getting close to some of the new growth, and I got to be careful not to chop into it too much. So maybe I'll come from underneath right here and get some of these last ones. Okay, so we just got one more here to chop. Now again, I don't want to interrupt his wonderful growth he's doing, so I'm going to move up just about maybe an inch to an inch and a half above his new growth and try to cut it there so I don't disturb him too much. Boy, it smells like peaches. Now with this scaffolding cutback, the new one, it now can grow. So let's do a little bit of fine tuning on this last one, and then we'll call this tree done. I think we're going to keep these two right here. So that means I'm going to cut it about right there. Let's head those off. And okay. And let's get rid of a few of these that are too close. Let's look if there's anything that can do peaches here now. Spacing wise, here's one, we'll cut it right there. Here's another, we'll cut it right there. That one will go away. And this one, kind of funny, we'll just get rid of that one. Kind of the thing, you can go through there and see ones that look funny, maybe they're dead, maybe they're pointed the wrong direction, and you can kind of set up some spacing, see how we're spacing them nicely. The ones we're going to keep, maybe I'll keep that one. See, it's kind of there nice. And this one will go away. And I'm going to get rid of that little one. I'm going to keep this one. And I'm going to get rid of this one off the back. And I'm going to get rid of that one there. And again, see how it comes together. We start spacing them out. And we get peaches off those, and we get nice spacing for structure later on. More branch growth. Here's one off the back I'm taking. And here's one off the back of this new growth. I don't think we want that. We don't need that. Let's get rid of that one. We got one here we can keep if we want to for a year, and we could just trim it up and get some peaches off of it. And then this one coming directly out front, I don't like it because it's going to take energy away and try to grow something out here low. I don't want that. And this other one too, that's directly out front. And you got to think of shape and form and all those things when you do it. It's a little bit of an artwork in a way. So this one we could keep. It's got good space in there. It's coming out here. Maybe I'll just trim it a little bit longer there and see what happens with that one. And this one's a little too close, so we'll get rid of that one. And we got some coming out this way. We got some pretty powerful ones coming out over here. This one that's really down low, I'm gonna get rid of it if I can. Boy, that's a tough one. Either that or my hand's getting tired. And then we'll get rid of that one. We could keep that one for another year and keep this one and see what happens with that one. So there you go. The tree's finished and it was saved, and it should be in pretty good shape to go now. The structure is solid. The branches have been thinned out. Now we'll have to come back again when it's time to thin the peaches and make sure they're not too heavy. But this pruning goes a long way to protecting the tree for the long haul, protecting your investment of 13 years, which this tree is. And so again, if you have a tree that's been badly damaged, it can be saved, but you just have to decide how much time you want to spend on that, because sometimes it is easier just to start a brand new tree. And sometimes they're prettier too when you start a brand new tree, because that one is, it looks pretty good now. It looks functional. It looks functional, but it doesn't look so pretty. And anyway, here's some branches that came off it here. And you can see how many, if you could go count all the buds in there on that big pile, I don't know, maybe it's 20 or 30,000 peaches, but those all came off. Just thank you for joining me on this 13-year-old tree and helping to recover it and showing you how we would go about doing that. So if you have a tree in your yard that's old and needs help, it can be done. Spring is here, it would appear. It's like 55 degrees today. So get out there and have some fun in your yard.